Well, thank you, Corey. I am Rick Esenberg, president of Will, although I have to say that I feel a little like Big Brother right now, to use a dated boomer reference, talking to you on this large screen. Right now, I'll be brief, which is it's very difficult for a lawyer, but we've got a lot of important information that our speakers will be conveying to you today. But I just want to start by thanking you all. You are either engaged in or you're about to embark on a wonderful task, something which is really the embodiment of our participatory democracy, right? You are going to be involved in the very important business, or have been involved in the very important business of educating our children. And particularly for those of you who are relatively new to service on school board, you'll find that the world of education, just like anything else, is filled with entrenched interests, people who have been there before, people who have their own agendas, their own language, assumptions, ideology. And for you as representatives of the public, as citizens, to come in and to navigate that, to understand that, to manage it, to challenge it when you need to, and sometimes you will, this is going to require some support and assistance. And what we're about today, I think, is to do our little bit to give you the tools to navigate this world. And I think that Corey has put together a wonderful program for you, and I hope that you find it very, very helpful. I want to introduce our first speaker so we can try to stay on schedule here. And let me just pull up his biography. Our first speaker will be Melvin Adams. Melvin is the founder of the Noah Webster Educational Foundation. He has over 40 years of experience in educational leadership. He's served on the teaching faculty and in the administrations of several schools and colleges in the United States. Noah started and led a college in Ukraine from 1993 to 2000. He served as a senior advisor on education for gubernatorial candidates and presidential transition teams. Melvin lives in Virginia with his wife, Sandy. I'm told they have 6 children and 21 grandchildren. And I thought I was doing okay for myself to have 3, but Melvin has quite the brood there, and I think he's got some wonderful perspectives to share with us. And so I'm happy to introduce Melvin Adams.
All right, well, it is a joy to be with you. My name is Melvin Adams, and it's a delight to work here with Will today. We've worked with Corey for a couple of years and with Will, and we are here today for one reason. We're here to try to support and empower you so that you can have some of the resources you need to do the very best job possible. Also delighted to have some of the other groups that are represented here today. They'll be sharing with you. All of us together are here for that reason. At the end of the day, it's all about what can we do to make our education excellent for our children. So, I don't have a lot of time, so I'm going to scoot along here. First question I have for you is your role one of leadership, administration, or politics? All right, so here's another question. What's the best way to lead? So today I want to talk to you. I don't have a lot of time, so I'm going to try to just run through this very quickly. You will get this PowerPoint, and I'm here all day. If you have questions, you can reach out to me. We have information out on the table there, and I also want to mention particularly this resource card. I'd love for all of you to pick it up, and so you can access some of the resources we have for you. I want to talk to you very briefly about 3 P's you'll need to be good at in order to be successful in your role. You'll have to balance those things. 5 things you should give attention to, and the bottom line focus for real success. So here we have communities. We all live and work in communities. I have 2 questions on this. First question is, do all of these communities that surround your school system have an impact on you and what you do? I think the obvious answer is yes. Here's the second question. Are you intentionally working to make sure that your product, your students, are able to effectively impact all of those other communities and flourish while doing so? Here are the 3 P's I want to talk to you about very quickly. Politics, policies, processes. So what is politics anyway? Really, politics is a philosophy. It's what you believe to be true. And that leads to principles that govern why you do what you do. This is a very important thing it's why you ran, right? That's the stuff you talked about when you were running for school board. Now, all of that helps to shape what you form in the way of policies. Policies are those rules that you, along with your fellow board members, set in place. They are principle-based guidelines that govern what you do, and they are there to support your community. Something's going on with these slides, but anyway, it's okay. All right, and then the last part, and let me just say quickly, often when we run for school board, we put a lot of focus on our politics, and we put a lot of focus on our policy, what we're going to get done. And that's important because that's where you communicate. That's where you connect with people. That's where you get value. But here's where oftentimes, especially new school board members, struggle. It's the third area called process. It's kind of like we got to get the policies in place in the first 3 months or I'm a total failure. Sometimes that's really important, but I want you to remember you're not there for 3 months. You're there for 4 years and maybe longer. And in education, you always have to have the long-term view of things. To get a policy, remember that policies can do great good and policies can have terrible unintended consequences. So, in order to get policies that really work, you got to work through the processes. That's that intentional application. How you do what you do. How you're working with your whole community to shape behavior. So here's a simple chart. You all have one that's much more complex than this. But in a sense, notice 2 things. You are at the top of the food chain. Don't forget that. But the rest of this team is part of your team. You got to work together. And at the end of the day, it's all about the students. So, educational leadership involves working with and guiding teachers toward improving educational processes. These in educational leadership roles go beyond management and administrative tasks. They enact policies and advance and improve educational systems. So every good functioning board has what we call an effective school-based management system. How many of you have a school-based management system that you work with? A few of you are aware of one, okay? It's really important to have. Every good one should cover these 4 things: leadership and governance, curriculum and learning, accountability for continuous improvement, and management of resources. All right, I want to talk to you about 5 important things that you should think about as school board members. The first is, what is the role of instruction in the process of educating kids? What is that role? What does it look like? What is it all about? The second one is, what is the role of parents? That's a critical question these days, always has been. What is the role of government? That's you. What is the role of faith and morality? Because that's integral to building community and society and character in our students. And what is the role of appropriations? Because if you follow the money, you can tell everything about that board. At the end of the day, what's important is that what you determine as policy in your boards makes it all the way to the student. I'm going to try to run through real quickly. So there's a lot of issues here today. Dissatisfaction with our schools. How many of you feel that? Yeah, everybody. That's one reason why you're running. It's one reason why you're in your role. A lot of dissatisfaction. Look at what Harvard president, clear back in 1892, had to say. Education does not promote general contentment and fails to secure public happiness. People in general are hardly more reasonable in their conduct of life than they were before free schools. Lawlessness and violence is still common in our schools. Is that true today? Now, here's a couple of things I'm going to share out of a book from, it's actually a teacher's guide, a teacher's manual for training teachers, from the Iowa State Teachers College. This is back in 1911, 113 years ago. To be a real teacher, one must make preparation along 3 main lines. Teachers must know what they teach, they must know how to teach, and they must know whom they teach. In that same book, our entire educational system breaks down to if teachers, when brought face to face with pupils in the school, fail to inspire, to teach, and to train them. That's where the rubber hits the road. So how confident are you that your teachers are masters in their instruction? To be honest with you, most of them are not. They've been taught how to teach, but they are not subject experts, most of them. How skilled are today's teachers in knowing whom they teach, and how do you think the student mind of 1911 compares to the student mind of today? For your discussion, did the schools of 1911 have a different focus from the schools today? How many parents are complaining that their children are not taught the basics? What is your school system's mission statement? And are you focusing instruction on things that will fulfill the mission? Are we teaching to address the whole development need of the student? And what policies do you have to ensure that your teachers are the ones who should be teaching your students? There are a lot of great teachers out there, and we need to support them. And there are some who frankly are not. Here we go, that same book. We can no more think of a good school without love than we can think of an ideal home without love. That is profound, and that is something that all of us must keep central in how we think about our roles and our jobs. It's not just about pushing things, it's about how are we impacting the kids. So I'm going to just real quick here. That's a really important pyramid. I like this. All right. So, in it, closing up here, some basic resources that I encourage you, if you're not familiar with them, to get them, study them, and even study them together with your board and superintendent. How can they help you? What can you learn from these books? Whoops, let me go back one more. Who owns the learning? And First Choices. All of these are excellent books that will get you thinking and growing and working together as a board on what you need to do to bring the best value to your community and especially your students. Thank you.